What is going on, squad? Today we're going to cover the 5 most overrated isochain exercises, because with us nearing 50 different exercises on the isochain, of course there are going to be some that we tend to gravitate towards. I guess you'd call it the best bang for your buck type exercises, which is okay, because when we talk about the gym, you know, we have our best bang for buck exercises too. You know, bench press, deadlift, squat come to mind as usually like the big 3. So we're going to cover them here, and the first one we're going to cover is the deadlift, which totally makes sense. Now, is the deadlift a bad exercise because it's on this list? No, the deadlift is really good, and the isochain, for the same reasons, is good in the weight room. It hits the entire body, every single muscle from your fingers all the way to your toes, hits everything. It's great. If you want to put on a lot of power through your entire body, you need to start with that deadlift. That deadlift needs to be in your programming. 1x6, 3x6, 6x6, endurance, hypertrophy, whatever it is, you want to get better with your total body and really working on your mind-muscle connection, add that deadlift. But it's also an overrated exercise too, because there are other exercises that we can do. Single leg deadlift on the isochain, which I rarely cover, and if you haven't seen what that even looks like on the isochain, there's a link right here. Go ahead and check that out. I have a whole how-to series on different exercises, and that is one of them. Just because an exercise is overrated doesn't really mean that it's bad, which is going to bring us to number 2, seated row exercise. Now, the seated row, another one where we could kind of go with best bang for buck. It hits the rhomboids, but it forces you to work on your core to really engage on pulling your elbows backwards. Terrible form on the row is just going to result in you leaning backwards, and you're going to get mesmerized by the higher number because you're leaning, but you're really not getting that much out of your back workout until you start coming up forward with the chin up and start driving your elbows back. Are there other exercises to work your back? There sure are. The first one I can think of is the bent over row from standing position. Now, you don't see that much on the channel, mainly because when I do it, I usually get a twinge in my back, and that's just me. That's just my personal fitness woes that I'm going through. Performing a bent over row is a really good back exercise. Number 3, the Zercher squat. There's nothing wrong with the Zercher squat, but it is overrated. It's like whenever we do a squat on the isochain, what's the first one that you think of? Now, if you're new, you probably are going to go right to either the Austin squat or the belt squat, in which case you are correct. You definitely are right. Those are, in my opinion, much better exercises, because the belt squat and the Austin squat take the spinal load out while giving you all the benefits of stronger leg while taking out the spine from the equation. Great exercise. Just is exactly why the belt squat, the machine-based version, is just as good, because you're getting almost a 1-to-1 transfer using the belt squat. So it's the same concept here. In fact, I'm sure that a lot of us have noticed larger numbers on the belt squat than the Zercher squat or any other variation of squat, front squat on the isochain, because we could just rip into it with our leg, provided the form is right, because it's easy to mess up the form on either of those. But without doing either, then the Zercher is number 3. So if you don't do either of those two, it's number 1, which makes it overrated. And that's going to bring us to number 4, the standing shoulder press. The standing shoulder press is, now I'm going to start to sound like a broken record. It's not a bad exercise. It's a very good exercise. It's just an exercise that we tend to go to a lot and not give other exercises a chance. So what could replace the shoulder press? Military press is military press. Overhead press is overhead press. So try it seated. So that's what I actually started doing about a month ago. And I noticed that when I do my seated presses, like dumbbell shoulder press, Arnold presses, I do notice a little bit of a better transfer, because I don't do standing barbell overhead press. I've done barbell overhead press seated. I've done it standing too, but I don't do that too often, mainly because of the pressure put on my lumbar spine. Even when I do tighten up my core and the form is right, you still feel it there. That's just an example. There are other exercises to work the shoulders. The front raise is another one, both seated and standing. There's a lot of different exercise variations that we can do. We can even do underhand for front raise. And that brings us to our 5th and final overrated exercise. Just the bicep curl. It's the one that you see me performing the most on the channel. Now, I have to say that the bicep curl has been very good to me. The standing one, it has been very good. By using the standing variation of the bicep curl and the iso chain, I've been able to take my bicep curl from, I believe it was, I don't exactly remember what it was on a Sweet 16. I'm just gonna say like anywhere between 120 to 140. I don't think it was 140. I think it was like even lower than that. And I'm able to hit high 180s to about low 200s. It fluctuates. It's not all 200s, it's not all 180s. Over the course of about 18 months. 18 months to go up only that much. So since it's overrated, what are some variations that we could do to switch up our training so it doesn't get so boring? Well, the first thing that I would recommend is a seated bicep curl. So it's the same concept, literally only seated. So if you haven't seen that video, here's a link right here. Check it out. It's again on the how-to playlist. And another one that I'm doing right now, as of this recording, it's probably going to change later, is the spider curl, another variation of the seated bicep curl. So there's different variations. Thank goodness for Dragon Door. I probably wouldn't have figured that out right away, but they're great exercise because after doing the same thing for a while, you get bored. What's nice about the iso chain though is that we can always switch up the chain length. So on those many months that I was doing the bicep curl, I wasn't always on the same. Sometimes I'd be switching it up just to get a little bit of variation in my exercise. And it did help when I ended up going back to mid. So that's something to take into account. Don't sleep on that. But those are my 5 most overrated iso chain exercises, old, trusted, tried and trues. But if you want to switch something up a little bit, try adjusting the chain link or the exercise altogether. You'll be surprised by how fresh and exciting your iso chain workout's going to be. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, go ahead and comment. It helps the algorithm out so people can know that the iso chain exists. If you're not yet part of the squad, hit that subscribe button, come join the squad. Also, we have a Patreon now, so if you would like to support your boy, we'd appreciate it. We have options for as little as $1 a month. I really appreciate your support. I will see you in the next video. Peace.